more
All
long
right.
before you get one of these.
Take
rods.
two.
Ready? Go.
Okay, how much do these rods cost?
So for the Helios rods, any of them that don't have what's called a fighting butt, in other words, are non-big game rods, are going to run you $10.98, just under $1,100. And then the ones with fighting butts for big game fish, those are going to be $11.99.
What is a big game fish for a fly rod? Because I've only ever caught smaller fish.
That's all right. So a big game fish would be something like that big guy up there, that tarpon. You want to do.
What would you use to catch him?
So for a tarpon, something you would use would be like what's called a 10-weight. So a 10-weight rod, such as this, is going to have those features that you want to fight those big game fish with, such as beefier graphite, crush-proof snake guides like this. I want to go close up to that one. Nickel titanium mix. Push them down, they just come right back up.
Wait, can I do it?
Sure.
That's cool.
Or even if you accidentally step on that, it'll come right back up.
Yeah, wow,
that is a good idea.
And then if you, like the fighting butt, if you are fighting a big old tarpon, you can pin it against yourself for more leverage instead of having a
stabbing yourself.
Yes, instead of a metal thing going right into your belly, you've got some cushion there.
Okay. What would your cheapest option with a good fly rod be?
Okay. So here's a question for you. What are we trying to get out of the fly rod? Are we trying to have something more beginner friendly as far as the learning
Definitely
curve?
beginner friendly for the learning curve.
Okay. So learning curve, we're going to be coming this way.
Okay.
For cost, then that's going to go that way. So kind of a balancing
Meet in the middle.
Sure. So, like the Helios, the Recon is made in the USA, in Manchester, Vermont.
That's really cool.
And yeah, the Helios ones also have wood inserts for the freshwater rods.
Cool.
But back to this guy. It's not as beginner friendly as the Helios because there's not quite as much accuracy. So, because there's less accuracy, there's less forgiveness, which means a little bit less learning curve. Still a really good rod, though.
Got it.
Right in the middle of the price point at $600 and still made in the USA.
We're going to need to mow a lot of lawns.
What was that?
We're going to need to mow a lot of lawns.
Mow a lot of lawns. That's all right. It took me, so don't be discouraged, it took me a year of saving before I got that guy.
Yeah.
What I did, don't do what I did. And what I did was I wasted money. I bought a $120 fly rod that was so tough to use that I almost quit the sport altogether.
I bought one that was $30 at Walmart.
That's all right. I know how it's like.
And then this one kind of looks like one of your fighting rods, but you said they get cheaper. This one's a lot cheaper.
Yes.
So
this series, the Clearwater series, it is not made in USA. We outsource this making. It's made in China.
Okay.
So we're able to take a lot of the technology away from the more forgiving and more expensive rods and make a much cheaper, more budget-friendly side of rod in that sense.
Okay.
So you can buy it.
We need to actually be able to hear what he's saying.
The other one, why are they so expensive?
So
we can't hear you otherwise. Sorry.
do we need to retake anything?
No, I don't think so.
That's all right. Hear me now?
Why is it so expensive?
So if we
mainly
look
US.
at the sport of fly fishing versus conventional fishing, your best conventional rods are going to be maybe $250.
Okay, so that's how much we need.
So that's for conventional fishing. For fly fishing, though, the rod does way more work. And here's what I mean by that. In conventional, you use weighted lures.
Yes.
And that propels your line outward and takes line off of the reel. In fly fishing, though, we're using pretty weightless lures. And this is a very big example.
Oh, my goodness.
Even if I tried that same example of let's take the weight of our lure and make that cast, that does not go very far. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, 5 feet. So we need some kind of weight somewhere in the sport of fly fishing to make this whole system work. And in fly fishing, our weight comes from the line. So we use weighted fly line that has tapers to it. And this is what we're casting. Our weightless lures, or flies, if we want to call them that, are just along for the ride. And so the rod, it has to bend a certain way in order to get that weight through those guides and have that hoop strength bend, and there's a lot more engineering with fly rods than there is conventional rods.
I saw this one thing where they took it looked like a fly rod reel, but it wasn't because he was using a real hook and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it had air brakes, so it could cast as far as a bait caster, but it didn't spool out. Do you know what those are called?
So, okay, so was it a bait casting rod that he was using with it?
Yes, it was a bait caster pole.
Okay, and you said it looked a little like one of these reels here?
Yes, it did.
All right, but it didn't take line off, or it did take line off?
It did take line out.
It did? I'm not sure what that would be, because for fly fishing, whenever we're taking line off of the reel, we're doing it by hand. So if there was a bunch of line down here, I would be pulling it off of the reel, and then our rod is going to be casting all that slack line beneath us, and that's all going to travel up there, because fly reels are one directional, whereas in bait casting they are two directional, or maybe even be having multiple gears. Okay. So what one direction means: there is no gearing in here, so if the fish is running and taking line out, then that means the reel is going that way, the opposite way, which is against your drag system. Now, if out of nowhere this fish is running, loosen the drag there for this example, the fish is running and you stop it, now yes, exactly. He's going to snap the line, because now you've just taken all of this brake, if you will, all your drag, trying to slow that fish down, and you've said, you're stopping now, and now that will break the fish off. So, in fly fishing, why we don't cast line off of the reel is because our drag system is usually too strong for the line to be pulled from there. So we do it by hand.
You're basically hand lining them in when you hook one.
For smaller fish, absolutely. Even big fish, there's scenarios where you can, like let's say that big tarpon up there runs at you, that one over there. Let's say it runs at you or the boat. Now you got to either reel this line in incredibly fast, or you're going to be stripping line in with your hand incredibly fast.
Okay. So this, I'm guessing, is a bigger fish rod, and this is a smaller fish rod. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are meant for different rod weights, and rods. Whenever they're said, hey, this is a 5-weight rod, or like the 10-weight rod I showed you, that weight talks about what really are you fishing for. So you heard me say tarpon fishing, that big tarpon, you're like, what are you going to catch that thing on? A 10-weight. And so your reel, like these little descriptor cards.
Also a 10-weight?
This would be line weights 7 to 9. So not quite a 10-weight, but this one up here, 9 to 11 weight, would be good enough for a 10-weight. And what that has to do with that is drag strength. If it's a bigger reel, you can fit more drag discs in there.
Yeah.
And you're retrieving a lot quicker with one big turn than a bunch of itty bitty small turns.
Yeah. Also, so I've been looking at these rod cases. So how much would, so this is?
These are 80. I have one, however, I do not use it that much. So what I would advise instead of this is what I do use a lot of. Like I have one of these in the bed of my truck right now.
This way you can fit a tackle box in?
Yep, you could fit your fly box, you could fit your reels. You can carry this onto an airplane, which I think is very nice, because you also have dividers in here.
Oh, you can take this with you in an airplane?
This is considered a carry-on size.
Because I made my own and I wasn't.
That's all right. And then you can put your rods in here, because all of our rods come with a rod tube and rod sock,
Stay back.
Such as this here.
So you do a lot of fly fishing?
I like to think I do. I try to make it a challenge for myself to go out at least once a week, because if the average person has 2 days off a week, then they can probably find room to do 1 day out of the whole 7-day week. Even if it's just, I've got a trip coming up, but I can't bring a rod, so after work I'm going to go for 5 minutes on a pond. That seems pretty doable. But anyway, back to this. Your rod sock will go in the top here, and you can fit 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 5 or 6 rods.
Then you
in
just
here.
put all your reels here in the corner.
You could do that, or what I do with my reels, I'll take these dividers and I will make them the size of my reels. So I'll have reels over here, however you want to do it. It's totally customizable.
How much would this cost in comparison to this?
So this, like we said, is $79,
Yes.
and then this is $249.
Okay. That's about twice the price.
Mhm.
So these different colors, are they different brands?
Nope, they're all Orvis. They're just different color, whatever your color preference is.
And when you reel in a fish kind of like this, wouldn't it seem like when you let go, zoom it back out?
Whenever you're fighting a fish, yes. So what you see whenever you see a fly fisherman fighting a big fish, taking line in, and then all of a sudden he's letting that line go back through his hands and onto the fish is what we call, what's the whole fight of the fish. Sometimes the fish get a little moment of where they seem like they're tired, and then they, boom, they run again. So that could have been, all right, I'm stripping in, and whoa, this fish is running again, so now I'm going to let him take line. Think of it as dancing. You can't both dance at the same time or you're going to step on each other's feet. So if the fish is running, you can't be pulling line in. So if he's running, you let him run. When he's not running, that's when it's our time to either strip him in or reel him in.
So I bought a big kit for making flies, and I've made a couple, but I have a hard time finding weights. Like, what kind of weights would you use for flies?
For the flies?
Yeah, to make it sink.
Okay.
Mine all float.
Good question. So there's a few things that we can do. The first thing we can do with our flies to add weight is simply the fly itself. You'll see, which I'll be able to show you guys here in a minute, you'll see what's called wire, lead-free wire, and that comes in different diameters for different weights. There's also beads. If you've ever seen some flies that have beads to them, like these, that metal bead on the end has weight and helps it sink down faster. It also gives you a quicker action whenever you're retrieving it.
Okay.
So you can add beads to your fly. You can also add wire, which if we hop over to my fly tying area, let's see, where's my wire? Here we go. So if that looks like this, and you'll tie this directly onto a bare hook, and that will be a little bit extra weight than if there was no wire at all. And then you can also add beads for even more weight. And then if you want to go full on, I want a streamer setup of a lifetime, then we can go over here and add sinking fly line to it. And I'll show you what that looks like. Excuse me, guys. Let me put this in the back.
I've seen where people use regular weights to connect to their regular line to make it sink.
Yes, I'll also show you that. The only thing with that is knots can get very, very tough to untangle because now we've got a fly and we've got split shot. They can do all sorts of crazy things through the air.
Yeah.
So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I do it when I have to, and I'll get into when you have to in a little bit. Yes.
Wait. We'll just go till it's dead.
All right. So you can also add weighted fly line that sinks. Sinking line has usually only 1 or 2 colors in it. This one has 3. So this kind of darker gray, this green, which you see out there, and then this black on the end of it. What this is this line sinks.
What does the different colors do?
That lets you know how far out, like if you needed to cast 40 feet and you're like, all right, I know about to that orange color change, that's about 40 feet, so you can start taking line off your reel till you get that color change. Another thing that's for is whenever you are casting, different tapers have different weight to them, or different sections of your line have more weight than others to them. So this taper lets you know
farther out, you have more weight.
Yes, so that way you know where your weighted part is and you can cast a little bit better with that. I don't recommend sinking line unless you're on a lake because 98% of fly fishing you can do with floating line. And so if we want to stick with the versatility, you can add split shot to make your flies sink. And there are a variety of different sizes. If you're on a 5-weight rod, then I would stick no bigger than the BB size. So let's go down to the smaller one to give you an example. But yes, split shot, you have a bunch of different weights in this little thing, so then you can get a little bit quicker sink rate.
Okay.
And whether you're in fast current, that's usually when I use those, is when my flies aren't getting quite deep enough in really fast current, then I'll add some split shot. But like I said, they can be a lot tougher to cast, so if it's possible, avoid them.
Okay. Can we take a deeper look at the flies?
Sure.
So, what is this?
So this, the nyap, or not your average popper, is a very specific fly. This is meant for fishing very, very big jacks off the Texas coast, just to get them to look at the top water, like in summertime when they start cruising around, or more commonly for what are called giant trevals or GTs off like the Seychelles.
Those are massive.
Oh yeah, they're
awesome to catch with those on a fly
Oh
rod.
yeah, that is like way bigger than 10 weight.
Bigger than you.
Sure. Oh yeah. As far as fight, oh yeah, definitely a lot heavier fighter than I.
These almost look like a bass lure.
Yes, these are flies, and yes, these will also catch bass. A lot of this stuff overlaps. Like, just because it says salt water does not mean this is only fished in salt water.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily, whoops, almost dropped it. You could easily fish for this guy on your bass flies, because I mean, you can tell me.
I could easily see a bass. I could easily.
If he's going to eat this, he's going to eat this, because they're both imitating a minnow. Now, granted, different colors. I'm not going to go too far into that, but
are bass colorblind?
there's some theory to whether they see color or not, but I've had days where a simple color change makes a big difference. There's also some days where even just the size of the fly makes a huge difference. So yeah. We don't fully understand, but we've got varieties for that reason. But yeah, this would be a good imitation for like a minnow. Bass would eat it. Redfish would eat it.
What would be the easiest beginner lure? Because I've fished with basses, and sometimes you gotta jig them more than others.
So, as far as beginner-sized equipment, you'd probably, if you said freshwater, probably be starting out on a 5-weight, unless you also wanted to do saltwater, then probably an 8-weight. So, I'm guessing you probably have a 5-weight to start out with. No. The weight of the rod doesn't really mean which tier of rod. All that is what line is it meant to be used with. Like a 5-weight rod is meant to work with a 5-weight line, and you see 5-weight in all of the tiers we make. So 5-weight there, 5-weight here, 5-weight there. Okay. So let's just go with it's probably a 5-weight. So we're going to stick to the smaller bass flies. So let me get my tweezers. I would probably start you with, first, for this time of year, since it's getting hot, they're going to be a little bit deeper. So a nice olive, flashy, woolly bugger is never a bad choice. Something that has weight to it. And then to complement it, a black one as well. On a light day like how this morning was kind of a brighter day, I would use a bright fly. But now that we kind of have some overcast outside, I would use a dark fly. And then...
So, this boat you're fishing in little streams and creeks and things usually. So, if you were fishing in a stream, how would you do that? Would you do underhands or overhead?
As far as against the current or with the current, like casting upstream or downstream?
Downstream.
Okay. So your question is, which way do I retrieve? Do I cast downstream and bring it back up?
Yes.
Or cast upstream and bring it down? The answer to that is you will have to play around. That's the cool thing about these flies is these streamers, there is no wrong way to fish them. Now, if you said, hey, I'm going up to Colorado and I need some trout flies, then these here, you don't want any drag to them, because then, since it's imitating a little insect that can't swim, the fish will see that and they'll go, well, I know that's not supposed to swim, so I don't know why it's going across the current.
Okay.
But these are imitating stuff like bait fish, leeches, a lot of even giant bugs. These imitate a lot of things. Sometimes they just look good to eat even. So that's what's cool about fishing these, is you can throw them upstream, across the stream, downstream, do whatever you want with them.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Excuse me? What is I saw flies that straps at the end of them,
Like some of these, like a fur strip on the end, or
like a leather kind of strip.
yes, like that. Yes, so that little fur strip is a piece of rabbit fur. And what it does is it helps give action to flies when they're in the water. A lot of natural materials like rabbit have a very, very good movement in the water. And so whenever the water is flowing through them, it'll kind of act like a tail flowing through there like a little bait fish swimming around. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
helping us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys,
Bye.
and thank y'all for all the good questions.
Bye.
So long, guys. Y'all as well.